Filled with joy right now to see all of the people here. And I wanted to come to you all today. I actually decided yesterday, I was telling my husband, I was like, I'm too emotional. I've been an emotional wreck all this week. My stomach is in knots, my lower back is hurting, and the muscles around my neck are tense. I stopped watching police murder videos and vigilante videos 3 years ago, but because of social media, other people post them and they're still in your timeline and you get a glimpse. And it's just been rough. It's been rough because the videos, I think, are more visceral. To actually see the murder and see someone yell out for their mother while their life is being taken, I think has, as you all can see, has literally sparked what I believe is the start of a revolution, not just in this country, but there have been protests in London, Berlin, and Toronto, Canada. People are tired. I am tired of seeing another black person being either gunned down by the police or a vigilante. Ahmaud Arbery was not killed by a law enforcement officer in uniform. Trayvon Martin was not killed by a law enforcement officer in uniform. There is this insidiousness of white savagery, I don't call it white supremacy, of this white savagery that people think they can just deputize themselves to control murder and just take someone's life just because of who they are and their skin color. And that has to end in this country. We all have to be about doing that work. I want to take an opportunity. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Yesterday was a really low day for me. I spent most of the day crying because I felt helpless. I felt like I've been in this justice work over a decade now. I co-founded Racial Justice Now in the state of Ohio, and this is opportunity to tell you more about me, to tell you more about our organization and how we ended up here in Montgomery County, Maryland. I started this organization in 2011 in Dayton, Ohio, when my then 3-year-old son was being expelled from a preschool. And I didn't realize that there was an issue of something called the preschool to prison pipeline in this country until it hit me in my face. And I experienced it as a parent. And then in the beginning, I initially did what most other working class black parents do, especially black women, was I internalized it and I thought that there was something wrong with me. There was something wrong with my parenting. And I even questioned, is there really something wrong with my baby, who was only 3 years old? It was only when I started to talk to other black women at that school who had other children, and a picture began to emerge. All of us who were mothers of black sons had the same experience. For me, that was the moment I became politicized. I began to ask more questions. I began to read and I began to study, and lo and behold, I realized, oh shit, education and racism has been an issue in this country since the beginning, right? And the targeting specifically of black children, black girls as well, black boys specifically, in particular when it comes to preschool, although black children, black preschoolers only make up 12% of all preschoolers in this country, but over 60% of preschool expulsions and suspensions. That's how this work for Racial Justice Now got started, and we take a very explicit focus on racial injustice and an explicit focus on anti-black racism, to be specific. We actually, my husband is Hashem. He's an organizer with the organization. I now work for a national organization, but we live less than a mile from here. We live in this community. And when we decided to relocate here to the DC area, we actually chose Montgomery County because we thought it was gonna be the best way to go for my black son, who is now 12 and a student in MCPS. We also have a daughter. We chose this community because we felt like, well, you know, maybe he'll have a better chance to succeed, you know, living in a community like this versus living in Dayton, Ohio, where things for black people are also horrible like they are in most other places. And we had heard so many wonderful things about the school system. I was like, yeah, MCPS. And so, you know, it is a great school system in many ways, but then we saw the reality is when we started looking at the data and when we started having our own experiences, particularly with the elementary school that my son entered in when we first moved here, damn, some of the same things are even happening here. I thought this was such a progressive community. You know, Dayton, Ohio is conservative, right? I know the enemy, the Trumpsters and all those people, but Montgomery County is supposed to be liberal and progressive. And I thought that anti-blackness wouldn't exist here, but it does. And it was at that time that my husband and I had a conversation. It was like, well, damn, should we start a chapter of Racial Justice Now here? And we actually linked up with other organizations, Silver Spring Justice Coalition, Impact Silver Spring, and all of the other organizations that have been doing work here for years and are rooted in community here. We were humble. We wanted to be able to first partner with other people, meet with them, and find out where can we plug in, how can we help? Because we didn't want to just come into a community and based on our own experiences just start organizing and forget about the people who have always lived here and who've been organizing before. And I have to say that we've been really welcomed with open arms from all of these other justice-oriented organizations. And so I want to openly thank all of you for welcoming us here in Montgomery County to do this work. I want to say, because I want to focus on some immediate things that I think that is going to be really important in how we move things forward here in Montgomery County, but also in Maryland in general. We also have allies in Baltimore. Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle is also a Black-led think tank that is based in Baltimore, Maryland. They're an amazing organization, and they do a lot of work around anti-Blackness at the State House. We have an opportunity to use this time as leverage to push our delegates in the State House and our governor to get rid of this law enforcement Bill of Rights, whatever the hell that is. That's a concrete step that I know that organizations around this state, particularly in Baltimore after Freddie Gray, have been working on, but have been stalled in the state legislature. I know that, I don't know if Gabriel's here. I'd like to acknowledge him if he is. He's also a state delegate from Montgomery County. I know he invited Racial Justice Now to the ACLU of Maryland earlier this year to start having these conversations about police accountability. There are actual concrete things that we can all do. We wanted to come out here, provide this space for healing, but we want to have the healing that we want to get back to work. This is not, thank you. This is not going to be a space where we want to come and lull everybody to sleep. This is, you know, we wanted to honor the pain that everybody is seeing across the country. We wanted to honor the real pain, and we wanted to honor the fact that people want to be able to also heal. People are looking for answers. People want to be able to do something. The other thing that our organization is working on is removing law enforcement from Montgomery County Public Schools and replacing them with counselors. We worked with the Silver Spring Justice Coalition earlier this year to put pressure on the Montgomery County Council not to fund more damn cops in schools in our middle schools. That's something that literally concrete we can do. We should not have the regular presence of police in our schools. I, as a mother of this young man here who's now 12 that started this organization, he's taller than me now. You know, he's not that cute little boy anymore. And so, you know, I'm concerned. That's right. I mean a little boy. He's tall, right? You know, he's gonna be looked at as a threat, and I don't need Montgomery County Police looking at him as a threat in a middle school or a high school and potentially harming him. I want them gone. That's a legitimate next step that we can do right here in our community for people who are like, well, what can we do? What can we do? We can start to attack. I have not taken a look at Montgomery County's police union contract, but I know other folks around the country are attacking police union contracts and the protections that they have to kill people. There's legitimate next steps that we can do, and I wanted to be able to offer those to support Black-led and people of color-led organizations right here in your backyard. We're here. Racial Justice Now is organizing here in Montgomery County, and we hope that we can have your support as parents, as taxpayers, and as people who have children in the Montgomery County school system. We're here to stay. We love this community. We're glad to be welcomed by other organizers in this community, other people who are pushing for justice. And you can always reach out to us via email. If you want to figure out if other ways that you can support us, you can always follow us on social media. We'll post different events there. But those are 3 different takeaways that I think that we can do immediately. And also supporting Councilman Will Jawando's, I completely agree with racism being a public health issue. I would hope that within that we can also have a specific look at anti-blackness, because I think racism is one issue, but we also have to deal with anti-blackness, because that is literally what's killing black people, as he said, in the hospitals, transportation, education, and literally every institution that we have. So repealing the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights in the Maryland state legislature, that has to happen. Removing the regular presence of law enforcement in Montgomery County Public Schools and replacing them with culturally competent counselors, social workers, and nurses. If we have a child in our school system that is having a crisis, the response should not be the police. We have people who are trained that can help de-escalate children, and those should be people who do not have a gun on them. The final thing is, please support the Black-led and people of color-led organizations right here in Montgomery County. You can do that. We're here. Impact Silver Spring is here. Our allied organizations showing up for racial justice, Montgomery County Silver Spring Justice Coalition, and of course, Racial Justice Now. Thank you all so much for being here. My heart